Hey everybody, it's Claudia Morandi. I'm a patient advocate and I'm the founder of the Don't Punish Pain Rally organization. So last night we had our first YouTube show, but we had some technical difficulties, but you can watch it by visiting www.cawnation, cawnation.com and click play. So hopefully the link will be posted to DPP Rally with Claudia. And that can be seen on YouTube, and feel free to leave comments, good, bad, or indifferent. The reason I'm making this YouTube video today is because this needs to be posted on Twitter. So I see and I hear so much discussion from doctors, especially about Suboxone and how it's effective, and then I see doctors say it's not effective for pain, and you know, I'm not a doctor, so I don't understand what you're saying, but I know one thing for sure. If you all don't start to fight back and take the power back from the government, it's only a matter of time before they're going after Suboxone doctors, because it's already happening in Rhode Island. 3 doctors have been raided by the FBI, and one Suboxone doctor greeted the FBI and he said, I'm the good guy. He thinks he's immune. But is it a cash business? I don't know. There's a lot of money to be made in Suboxone, and those scripts are all over the place, and they're getting in the wrong hands of people, and they're being filled, and they're smuggling them into prison now. I know they are at the ACI in Rhode Island. Look, there's a balance to this disaster, because we've had 3 overdoses in my immediate circle, and all 3. 2 had carfentanil, 1 um, another form of, illicit fentanyl. They all had illicit substances in their system, plus many other things. Of course, there's a problem. We've got people overdosing hourly. I mean, this is bad. But the people that are overdosing have not overdosed on pain medication that was prescribed to them. And although convenient to coin it as the opioid epidemic, the government created this. It's a manufactured agenda. And they've created it so when you hear opioid crisis, your mind goes to a pill bottle. And then people who are dependent, not addicted, dependent upon pain medication, then carry the stigma. And the addictions community, they're getting accolades and they're receiving what they need. And I think that's great, because I don't want to see anybody struggle with depression or anxiety or addiction. But there's no problem with doctors increasing someone's antidepressant dose, but there's a huge problem with a person in pain asking for an increase in the dose. Why? Because doctors don't want to lose their homes. They don't want to lose everything they've worked so hard for. And they're honest with me. They call me and they say, we have families. We're not going to lose everything to take care of our patients. But that's wrong. You shouldn't be a doctor. You should probably be an electrician, because you're limited in what you can do. If you can't prescribe to a sick person who needs pain, because there's no shame in pain, then you're not doing your job. And you took an oath. And I was a court reporter. I'll always be a court reporter. And I took an oath. And I used to place people under oath many, many times a day. The bottom line is there's a balance, but you have to take the power back from the government. And the only way that's going to happen is if you people get off of social media and you get on the phone with one another. And I know you're busy and I know you're overworked. And so is Joe Schmo up the road. Just because you're a doctor, you're not any more overworked than the average person. You went to school, you've accomplished something wonderful, and I think that's great. But we have people that are not educated and they've been left to suffer. So, and we have doctors and we have lawyers who are addicted and struggle with alcoholism. And there's a place in everybody for this world. But today, there's not a place for pain patients. because with those 2016 CDC guidelines, they were so vague, and they deleted 100 million people with pain from the country. And when you delete 100 million people, that's called a genocide. So we have a place for people who struggle with addiction. Clearly, it's not working, no, because the overdoses continue to skyrocket. I've got a 17-year-old headed off to college. If she turns her head for 1 minute and somebody puts a pill in her water, or she may be drinking on campus, who knows? She could overdose. That's it. I lose my kid. I don't want my kid to die from an overdose. I don't want your kid to die from an overdose. And I don't want anybody's kids getting hooked on pain medication. We need more research. Randall Carter was on the show last night, and he went into great detail, but I'm going through menopause, so I don't remember. All I remember is $22 billion should be put aside for chronic pain research. We just don't have the research to put down in front of Congress and say, look, here's the numbers. There seems to be a lot of numbers supporting addiction, but there's no numbers, there's no research. Maybe there's no research. I don't know, because I'm not a doctor, I'm not a researcher. That's not my strength, that's not my forte. My strength is organizing protest, but even that, people are getting like discouraged, and I get suicide phone calls, I get people crying, they call me and they're in despair. So what do you do? Where do you send these people? We have some good news. The good news is mainstream media knows what's happening. And a lot of journalists are starting to call this a manufactured crisis, because people are tired of hearing on television, on the news, opioid crisis, opioid crisis. But what happens? Your legislators, your lawmakers, they're just your average people in your neighborhood. They don't know what's going on unless they're sick. And I have an expression: you're not affected unless you're affected. What does that mean? You don't know if you're not sick. But it's not a sick person's game anymore. This isn't every person's problem. So if you go in for surgery, chances are you're going to be left to suffer post-op. And if you take daily pain medication, you're going to really be left to suffer, because your doctor doesn't want to touch you with the 10-foot pole. So my suggestion is don't get any elective procedures. Don't get any surgery done. Because even with the plan in place, your pharmacist is going to probably not fill the script. So what the organization Prop did, along with Andrew Kolodny, and I don't know the man, so I have no feelings towards him or Prop. They created these guidelines, which were incredibly vague. They were meant to focus on primary care physicians, which, by the way, I think the only doctor that should be treating you is your primary care physician. I don't believe in people with Crohn's disease like myself being shipped off to a pain management center, an anesthesiologist. That makes no sense. Your primary care physician can easily treat your pain, because all of these doctors, at the end of the day, they all received about 7 hours worth of medical training, pain training, if you want to call it that, when they were in medical school. My anesthesiologist, he puts people to sleep, wakes them up, does injections. It's not an expertise. Being an anesthesia guy is an expertise, but pain is pain, and this is ludicrous. There's a balance. But doctors on social media, the conversation is great and all those great articles, but they're staying right where they are. They're on social media. It's not like someone's looking at them and saying, oh, this is brilliant. Look at this research. We didn't see this before. Oh, doesn't matter. Your senators and your congresspeople, they don't want to go against the trend right now, because they look like the heroes. You got to show up to these hearings that are being held when when a representative sponsors another insane opioid bill. You got to show up and say, look, enough. Call it what it is. We have a heroin problem on our hands, and we've probably had this problem for a long time. Tune in next Sunday, DPP rally, talk show with Claudia on YouTube. This will be posted to Twitter. If you're a doctor and you're ready to fight back, you can email me. My email's all over the country. It's all over press releases. I'm happy to facilitate the process, but I can't be you because I'm not a doctor. Go to the protest on June 21st at the CDC and fight back and take back the power from the government because illness does not discriminate. Everybody gets old, everybody gets cancer, everybody gets some crazy, who knows, a car accident can change your life. Fight back, take back the power from the government. It can be done.